I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar on worry and rumination, reducing the power of worry and rumination. We have a lot to cover in a relatively short time. Thanks for everyone who's getting on Kahoot. That'll really make it a richer experience for everyone involved, not just yourself, but everyone else as well. I'm going to be asking you some questions in Kahoot. Your name will never show up, so it's completely anonymous the way Kahoot is set up for this presentation. But I've done 3 presentations this week using Kahoot, and I've really been struck by how much the participants, how much wisdom and insight they brought to the presentation. Things that I hadn't thought about saying, things that I never thought about, period. And so there's really a lot that can be gained by joining Kahoot and being able to participate, and all of us gaining wisdom in this area. This is not something that I, hold the magic, the keys to the kingdom. This is something that I struggle with at times as well, and we can benefit from each other's collective wisdom. So I'm going to talk a little bit, since so many people are joining Kahoot right now, I'm going to talk just a little bit about the presentation, because once I advance, the QR code will no longer be available. So today's presentation will be really about understanding the basics of worry and rumination, what it is, also about what not to do. That's pretty important. We'll spend some time learning some strategies, and a couple of these are mindfulness based, some are not, and I'm going to ask you to practice some things. This is going to be a real key piece to this presentation, I think, for your benefit, is to practice and just experiment, see if these things work. So, wow, lots of people joining Kahoot right now. If once I advance again, you will not be able to see the QR code, so you can still get on with the app or kahoot.it. I'm going to, just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and start. We have a great participation within Kahoot. That's awesome. I think you'll really see the benefit there. Okay. Wow, this is great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. Again, you can get into the app or through kahoot.it. So I've already talked about what we're going to be covering. So we'll go right into Ziggy. Leave your worries on your doorstep and use the back door from then on. Avoidance, which worry and rumination often is, works temporarily. When we don't face our worries head on, or when we get caught up in rumination, and we'll talk more about this, there's some kind of function or some kind of purpose behind that behavior that, at least short term, is really helping us. I'm thinking about a client, and I'll use client examples throughout this. I'm a psychotherapist in private practice. I should have said that in the beginning. Psychotherapist in private practice. EFR hires me to do trainings like this. And much of my experience, though, has been working in different businesses. So I have kind of that combination of business psychotherapy experience. And I'll be using some client examples. It's either Joe or Jane every time. I never want to use a client's name. So this particular person, Jane, really can get caught up in a cycle of either worry or rumination, or kind of together. And she found out about a friend that moved back into the Des Moines area, and Jane was really ruminating on what a terrible friend she'd been and how she let that friendship go. And she was really wanting to reach out, but she was really worried what her friend would do, that her friend would snub her or maybe even say some really mean things to her. And so she was caught up in this cycle of worry and rumination. And in this case, and we'll talk about taking action, in this case, I asked her what she thought about texting, because that's how she was going to reach out, texting this long lost friend in our session. Well, she actually kind of hated the idea, but did it, and felt so much relief with actually in this case, she could take some action. Whether it worked out or not, she felt better. It did actually work out, and they've reconnected, which has been really interesting. But so these things can really have impacts in our life, as you know. So what is worry? It's repetitively thinking about something that hasn't happened yet. Sometimes it helps us consider different perspectives. Sometimes it helps us find solutions. But unfortunately, we get sucked into unproductive worry, which leads to anxiety and feeling stuck. Talked to a client just this morning, 7:45, has an upcoming court case. The more he worries about what might happen, the more anxious he gets. The more anxious he gets, the more he worries. And then he starts thinking about all the things that he did or didn't do in the past, and might that come back up in court? And he starts having some self-critical thoughts. And so all of a sudden, worry and rumination are playing off each other. I don't know if any of you have experienced that. It happens a lot. So what is rumination? It can mean deep thought. If you look in the dictionary, one of the first definitions is deep thought. But in the way we're using it today, it's repetitive thoughts focused on something that did or didn't happen in the past. I did or didn't do. For example, why did I, say that, do that? They must think I'm really unskillful. They must think I'm stupid. They must think I'm lame, whatever that might be. If I would have done this, then I had a client this week. It's so interesting when I'm doing a presentation that these client stories, I guess because I'm really kind of on the lookout subconsciously, I'm not really consciously doing it. He was thinking about if he would have done all these things, then his kid would be in a much better, his child who's really suffering with some mental health issues would be in a much better place now. So he's resulting, who knows how it would have been. And in fact, when we kind of picked it apart, he realized that he couldn't have done things all that much differently. And if he would, he's not sure how it would have turned out. So that's resulting, and that's something that happens with rumination. We assume hindsight's 20/20, really not. And with rumination, we can get caught up. It can really be a part of depression, that kind of shame and depression piece. So uncertainty about the future with some degree of threat. In this case, maybe a big dog coming into the yard. Some degree of threat can trigger worry. Dogs aren't concerned about the future. Now, if they see another large dog that was very mean to them, they might have a threat reaction, but they're not capable of saying to themselves, I wonder if that big dog is still around. I wonder if that big dog has brothers or sisters. Is he coming back? Maybe I should go in the house. Maybe I should stay in the house. They're not capable of that. So this mind of ours that can problem solve so many amazing things can also be used to try to problem solve things in which it doesn't work. So I'm going to ask you a question about worry and rumination in just a moment, but just a little more ground setting or foundation setting. All of us want to stay in this, it's called the window of tolerance in this model. We're calm, we're alert, we're able to think clearly, take in information, we're good listeners, all those kinds of things. We're calm and alert. When there's a threat, whether it's physical or emotional, we're being judged, it could be all kinds of things. We either go into fight or flight, or we go down into freeze, which would be shut down, disconnected, right? So and I work with a lot of couples, often, not always, but often couple, one will go up here, one will go down here. And then the more this one goes up, the more this triggers this person to go down and just shut down even further, which agitates this person. So the problem is we can't think clearly, and we're not good problem solvers when we're feeling a lot of anxiety or fear, or when we're shut down and disconnected. It's just our brains aren't meant to work then. They're meant to fight or flee, or even freeze if certain situations. The problem with worry and rumination, they trigger these things. They trigger fight or flight. They trigger being shut down and disconnected. I worked with a client who was an executive at an insurance company. He was a vice president level. When he was in meetings with the executive vice presidents, he would go into freeze mode, and he had to have everything written out that he was going to talk about. And he was so focused on that he wouldn't take in a lot of the things that were happening in the room, which made what he said kind of odd sometimes or not so helpful. So he would go into shut down, disconnect. He couldn't think clearly. He definitely couldn't be creative. That's why it can be so unhelpful when we get caught up in worry or rumination or a combination. So why do we do this then? Okay, it clearly doesn't work, at least when we get caught in these cycles. Well, because then we can say, you know, I've thought through all the responsibility, all the possibilities. I've worried and worried and worried about this. There's nothing left here. I've thought through it all. Or maybe we can find a solution that's better than the solution we want to avoid. Today, a client was talking about how they needed to have a discussion with their fiance about not having the marriage happen as soon as the fiance wants. Well, if they think and worry about it enough, maybe they can find something better than bringing that up, because that's going to be stressful. Sometimes it can feel like we're doing something helpful. Just kind of feel like, well, at least we're doing something. I know it's very illogical, but that's how it can seem to us. Sometimes worry and rumination can keep away even more difficult things like shame, like fear, like anxiety. Sure, we might have a low level of anxiety as we keep worrying, which may even raise to a higher level of anxiety, but that might be less than the all-out fear we might face if we face something head on. And avoidance. So just take a second before we go to I'm not going to ask you this in Kahoot, but what are your earliest memories of worry? It can be really interesting to, yeah, geez, I was 6, or, I didn't start worrying until college or later. So here's the Kahoot. How has unproductive worry or rumination impacted your life? This is anonymous. No identifiers whatsoever will show up. But it'd be real interesting to see some themes. And the timer on the left is a guideline. Even if I show all the answers, your answer will still come in as long as I don't go to the next screen. I think we'll see I'll be surprised if we don't see some very striking impacts just about quality of life, maybe relationships, maybe things that a person really wanted to do but didn't. So it'll be, and again, don't worry about the timer. Keep, even after I show answers, your answer will come in. We'll see what the themes are. A lot of answers. I'm guessing there will be some themes. I'm not going to read each one, but we will look for themes. It's not letting me look yet because there's so many answers coming in, or show them because there's so many answers coming in, but I'll show it just as soon as I can. There we go. Okay. Wow. So time is a theme we can see here. I'm going to scroll down. Yep. Prevented from doing things I didn't want to do, extra stress, procrastination, not enjoying the moment. I've been worrying since about 10 years old. It makes me feel down. And that might be rumination, could be worry too, though. Early in life, it impacted me immensely. Wow, look at these. Clearly, this is an important topic. Johanna, when we were talking beforehand, said that there were a lot of people signed up for this, and it's clear why, right? Look at these. I'm going to go ahead and try to show as many as I can. And executive function, exactly what we were talking about. Makes it hard to make decisions. We get so caught up in all this. Makes me question myself. Yeah, addictive gambler. Wow. Living with one. Enjoyment, so mental energy. So yeah, it's very striking. Wow. Thank you, everyone, for being so open about sharing this. And I'm really glad you're here. We will talk about some strategies as we go. So what is productive worry and rumination? There is really, at least in my perspective, there is such a thing. It moves you to an action plan to deal with the problems. So for example, someone goes into the doctor and their blood pressure is elevated. So they start thinking, what am I doing, not doing? Am I, too much salt? I thought I was exercising. What's wrong? Let's see, did my dad have this? Did my mom, and start really thinking about all this stuff and really kind of get caught up in it. And at some point, then this person might say to themselves, okay, I've thought this through some. I need to quit thinking about it and just do some things. I'm going to reduce salt. I'm going to focus on starting a meditation practice, or I'm going to start setting some boundaries, not saying yes to everything and feeling overwhelmed all the time. I'm going to start exercising regularly. I'm going to get a blood pressure monitor and take my, so now all of a sudden, this worry and rumination has led somewhere. You don't need worry and rumination to get here, but at least it can be productive if we don't get caught up in it, if we know how to distance ourselves or separate from it. What not to do? So there's this saying, pain plus resistance equals suffering. Argue with it. Arguing really doesn't work. Well, I shouldn't be feeling or thinking, what's wrong? Because that leads to oftentimes, I shouldn't really be worrying about this. This isn't that big a deal. But yeah, why do I always worry about things? I've been worrying about things since I was little. What's wrong with me? Other people, that you can see, how that can get so caught up when we argue with it. And it's pretty hard to argue with. If we have an emotional experience that's really causing us to worry, logically we'll probably not be able to talk ourselves out of it if the emotions are strong enough. Struggling and resisting doesn't help. Willing it to go away, I'm sure you've tried that. Denying that it exists. So I'm going to now ask you, what have you tried that didn't work? And then we'll be going on to some strategies that you can try that hopefully will work better. Really helpful though to be clear about what's not working, and a great way to learn from each other as well. Lots of answers coming into this one as well. I'm guessing some of the things on the previous slide will show up, but I'm betting there's some others as well. So let's look what the themes are here. Whoops, I wasn't quick enough. Try again, there we go. Drinking, oh, thank you. Yes, of course, that's a common one. Heavy drinking. Suppress or forget, ignore it. Eating, drinking, just today, one of my clients was talking about eating mindlessly and too much, being depressed. Wow. So we see some real themes here around distraction. Couldn't focus on meditation. So we're going to do something related to meditation, but different today. Very focused on worry and rumination. So we'll see how that works for you. Breathing only works sometimes. Yep. Some humor there. I'm sure that person meant it, but sleeping to ignore worry. Yeah, so we can see all kinds of ways that we've tried to, us collectively have tried, and I've tried many of these myself. Okay, let's talk about some strategies. One strategy, so some of these are, you're going to say to yourself, well, duh, or of course. Some of these are very simple, but they're not easy. We either forget about them or we don't really exploit them. What part of this problem can I influence, change? What part do I just need to accept? And you know what? Maybe there's some really difficult feelings that come with accepting that. Maybe I'm going to have to accept some grief, some loss. but maybe that's part of it. What can I influence? What needs acceptance? Getting active, just to break that cycle. When we're caught up in the cycle of worry and rumination, just going out the house, getting out of the house and going for a walk or run or whatever, changing locations, going out in nature. These don't work all. We're going to talk about a number of different strategies, and I'm going to have you practice a couple things. Some of these may work for you, some of them may not. Maybe you've tried them, maybe you haven't. Here's one that's rarely do I see tried. I use it a lot with clients. Because underneath, for example, underneath worry, there's a sense of maybe I won't be able to handle X, Y, Z. Well, really getting in touch with times I've done other hard things. Okay, yeah, this is going to be hard. When else have I done something really hard? You know, I did it then. And then really feeling it, allowing yourself to embody what that felt like. You know, that feels really good. It's hard to do this just by talking about it. But it's striking with clients how powerful this can be to shift the focus to what have I done that's been hard? Who can help me with this? What is the worst realistically that could happen? What can I do to either cope with it if it happens or prevent that? And put it on paper, which would be this. What can I change? Not so sure about. What can I definitely not change? Just getting it down on paper is really helpful for some people. Getting it out of our head onto paper. I know I'm going a little bit fast right now, trying to get a lot of information to you and making sure you have time to practice a couple things. So another, and this was brought up in meditation, breathing, you know, mindfulness wasn't mentioned that I saw, at least that word, but it's just really being present. Right? When we're fully present, we might be aware that we're worrying or ruminating, but we're still present. So we're not caught up in the past. We're not caught up in the future, right? So let's do an experiment. This is a grounding exercise. It's not meditation per se. What I'm going to ask you to do is first start worrying or ruminating about something, not a 10, not a 9, not something traumatic, but something that can tend to bother you and you can get caught up in. So just go ahead and let yourself go there for just a minute. And then I've done this exercise with probably 700-800 people now, webinars and clients. Very easy to do. So, yep, I'm stressed about this. Allow yourself to start worrying a little bit. And now just look around your room and find something red or reddish, something white, something blue, bluish, something visually appealing, whatever that means to you. Something with texture. For me, it's my walls. Now see if you can identify two different sounds, not my voice. Wiggle your toes, push your feet into the ground. Feel your back, either touching, if you're standing, feel your back, and if there's any tension there, or if your chair, maybe it's a little warmer there. Allow your shoulders to drop. Let your tongue be a little bit more relaxed in your mouth. Sounds kind of crazy. Allow your eyes to just soften just a bit. Okay. What did you notice? You only have 30 seconds. You either noticed something or you didn't. About 98% of people notice something when they practice this, even though that was a minute, maybe a minute and a half max. Relax, relax, relax. Breathing more calm. Wow. Too busy to wonder what I was worrying about. Look, that was, wow. Dog snoring. Right. When we're worried or ruminating, we're zoned in. We're very narrow. We're not noticing things. Interesting. That was, boy, I should have asked Johanna to time that, because that could not have been more than 90 seconds. that to me is fascinating, that, and I've seen this over and over and over again. Okay, we're going to do one that's even more powerful for many people. So first, I'm going to ask you to daydream about something pleasant. Just go ahead and have something in your mind. And if something worrisome comes in, that's fine. But if you can, daydream about something pleasant. And now, acknowledge what's going on in your body and your emotions. Just kind of get a general sense. Do whatever it takes to feel like you're in your body. So stretch, push your feet in the ground, and push your hands together, and just look around a little bit. Open to your other senses. What can you see and hear? Okay, now go ahead and start worrying or ruminating. Not a 9 or 10, not even an 8. But allow yourself to get caught up in something stressful. Oh yeah, why do I do? You're like, oh, this is coming up. I don't want to do this. What, whatever it is, allow yourself to go there. And now pause and acknowledge, what am I feeling? What's going on in my body right now? Oh, some tension, some this, some that. Do whatever it takes to fully get into your body and out of your head. Push your feet in the ground. Stand up. Stretch. Doesn't matter. Look around. What can you hear? And then just notice. If we had more time, I'd ask you to do this 2 more times. So if you practice it on your own, you could try it 2 more times. So just notice. Stepping out of the river. Again, 30 seconds. What did you notice? Trying to get out of these rapids and get to a place where you're able to think more clearly. One of the clients I've worked with who's had a lot of trauma, very, very strong self-critic, when she comes into her body, that's really the only way she can kind of quiet her mind, slow everything down. So we'll see for you. See what we have so far. Notice that the heart rate increases when I worry. Great noticing. My poor posture. Good noticing, because then you can have good posture. You can breathe differently. You know what? Don't worry about that. This is a little bit hard one to do in this kind of a mass setting. You can find this online. Just stepping out of the river. Russ Harris is actually a medical doctor who's a psychotherapist now in Australia who does this a lot. Went from stress to more open-minded, didn't get lost, it's grounding. Okay, so again, very artificial. Last thing I'm going to talk to you about in terms of strategies, this is Judd Brewer. Judd Brewer is a psychiatrist, Brown University. He's written a book, Unwinding Anxiety, that talks a lot about worry. He's got a website, which is at the bottom, drjudd.com, drjud.com, where he has a lot of free resources, worksheets, talks, all kinds of resources on this website. One of the primary tools that he uses with his own patients is this habit mapping. We don't have time to do it. It'd be really hard to do with however many people are on right now. But I want to point you, you can find this on the website. You can find lots of associated resources on the website. What he's really trying to get people to do is identify what the cue or the trigger is for the worry or the rumination in this case. What do you do then? It might be worry and rumination and how it goes in cycles. It might be I start eating, I drink, I do whatever. What are the results? From his research, and he's done a lot of research in this area, he's found that our brain has to become disenchanted with whatever we're doing. We have to have a felt sense, not just logical. We have to experience that something's not working. I'll give you an example. He's developed 3 different apps. One is Unwinding Anxiety that deals a lot with worry. Another one is all about eating healthy. I have a client in his 50s, has tried dieting much of his life, never once has had anything work well for him. The Eating Healthy app has him cue into the triggers to notice when he's eating. Does this taste good? Does it not taste good? And notice the result. Oh, I feel full. It's too much. 3 pieces of Casey's pizza. It took him about a month of just using this app before he became disenchanted with his behaviors. And then he naturally started eating more healthily. So it's the same kind of thing again in a lot of free resources, really getting good at mapping out and really getting a felt sense of how is this working for me? Other ways you can do this is just daily. A way to kind of practice not being caught up in worry is maybe every time you brush your teeth, you actually focus on brushing your teeth, the water, the taste of the toothpaste, all of that, or eating. You actually focus on eating. Anything can be a mindful practice, just bringing your attention to it, which brings your attention to it, not the worry and rumination. Checking in. Some of you know how you get tense when you worry or ruminate. So checking in, oh yeah, I'm really tight right now. And there's apps and resources for all of these. So last Kahoot, then we'll be finishing up. Doesn't have to be a thing I said, might be something a colleague, somebody else put up on this screen. But what will you do differently? It'd be really interesting to add, when will you start? So that it's not a good intention, and then a faint good intention, and then what was I going to do again? So what will you do differently? 1 or 2 small things even as of this presentation. I know we went through a lot. I tried to give you a taste of different ways to go about this so that if you wanted to do further research, you'd know kind of where to search, where to go. And EFR has a lot of resources that are very much aligned with what we covered today. So Johanna will talk about some of that. Okay, we'll see what we have so far. Keep typing, it'll come. Wow. So a lot of personal things, and also sharing with my spouse and being more understanding. Some of these are mindfulness based, some of these are more kind of self-talk and at how we talk to ourselves, asking ourselves questions. Exercising, okay. A lot of great ideas. I really hope, just think about now for just a moment, if you did this and you did it every day, even if it's a little bit of every day between now and the end of the year, think about how that might change your life. All right, with that, I will turn it over to Johanna.
Thank you, Lars, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many people join our webinar today. I'm Johanna Dunlevy, the Wellness and Marketing Manager at Employee and Family Resources, and I want to share a little bit about your EAP benefits. If you, in fact, have EFR's EAP, which most people who join our webinars do have access to EAP benefits through their employer, and they're provided by EFR. So if your employer group has our benefits, you have access to 24/7 phone support. Master's level counselors will be taking those calls and helping you navigate whatever set of circumstances you're going through, and identifying some great resources that you can tap into from EFR. We offer in-person or telehealth counseling sessions. We have an online anonymous peer support group called Togetherall that has a lot of great features and resources for people who maybe want to give support or receive some support and connect with others who have similar shared life experiences. We also have life coaching, financial consultation, legal consultation, and elder and child care resources, as well as identity theft resolution services. So a lot of great resources. If you're finding that anxiety, worry, rumination are some things that you're really trying to navigate on your own and you're not finding much success with that, reach out to EFR. We can help you. You can have access to visit with a counselor who can, share some of the, same things that Lars introduced today. So please don't hesitate to reach out. The number is 800-327-4692, and I think that might be on the next slide.
Okay, we'll go to that.
Or maybe, yep, there it is. So 800-327-4692, again, we're available 24/7, and it's for you and anyone in your household, so anyone in the household. The only question we've had come in so far was someone asking, are there some of the handouts you referenced, Lars? Do you have a link I can share out, or are there handouts where people can fill?
I'll put something together for you, Johanna, so that you can get that out to whoever that would be helpful to. Links as well as some of the resources I mentioned.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
You bet.
I also want to announce that we have a couple of webinars coming up in the month of October. And so I just want to give you a quick overview of what those are. They are listed on our website right now for registration, so head over and get registered. But on October 11th, we have emotional accountability with Barb Rank, and then on October 25th, we have psychological safety in the workplace with Lars Peterson. So Lars is coming back in about a month, and then we'll also have that one on October 11th. So it's great to see everyone here today. Thank you so much for participating in the Kahoots and staying engaged for the entire 30 minutes, and it's good to have you showing up and sharing. So thank you also to Lars for your time and expertise on this topic, and make it a great day, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Johanna.
Bye-bye.